I do want to talk about this terrible jobless claims number that's coming and why it's a little bit of good news. And just bear with me for a second. We're about to have an absolutely historic surge in the jobless claims number. That comes out at 8:30, and it will more than double, at least the estimate is for 1.5 million people to have filed for first-time or initial jobless claims today. That number comes out at 8:30, as I said. And the previous record was 695,000 in 1982. And the number could be a lot bigger. We've seen numbers all the way up to 3 million here. Let's talk inside the number, what the story is. And there's a lot of drama going on behind the scenes that will get us to this number. On the first place, there's a number of people who lost their jobs. Andrew was talking about that. The second place is the ability of states to process a huge surge of claims like this. And in the third place is these efforts by some employers. They are trying to do the right thing, trying to retain their workers, keep them on salary. So we'll see how long that can go. Now, this is a big surge in one-time claims, but let's show a story here of why it's good the economy is starting from at least a decent place. Claims have been low, so take a look at continuing claims here over time. They surged as much as 6 or 7 million, the total number of people getting claims at any one time. We're beginning from a low standpoint, so that's a good sign here for where we have to go. It may go up all the way, but it's better to start at a lower number. Why is this a good thing?
Hey, Steve,
first of all, it's always bad when... Go ahead. Becky?
That's a stretch for a silver lining. The good news is we're starting from a low base, but these are some big numbers. And Gavin Newsom himself, the governor of California, was saying they've seen 1 million in California over the last week.
I know that, but hey, if we were starting from already having 400,000 or 500,000 receiving jobless claims and we were going up from where we're going to go, it's certainly a better place to start where we were, which is at 200,000. And I agree, it's something of a stretch. Here's another stretch for a silver lining here. Let me give you one more stretch for a silver lining, which is this. It's always bad when somebody loses their jobs. The jobless claims program is designed to be the first line of defense to any kind of shock to the system here. So what you see when you see people applying for this is they will get aid, and they'll get it faster than Eamon's folks over in Washington who are saying 3 weeks. Then they'll get it. So it is a good thing, on the one hand, that people will be getting assistance through the way they're supposed to be getting it in the initial phase of these things. Second of all, they'll now be in the system to receive additional aid. I know those are stretches for silver linings, but I would prefer to see people receiving the aid they need than not getting it, Becky.
Agree. I agree. I guess my other question is, Eamon, Steve, has anybody talked to a small banker these days to figure out if they understand how they're supposed to be processing these things? I mean, are they on board with this? Do they get the idea just from what we've heard from Mnuchin that, yeah, okay, the small banks are going to be the ones who do it? Do the bankers who are in these hometowns say, great, let's start lending. We feel good about this. The Fed has our back. Let's go.
Anecdotally, Becky, I've been talking just on Twitter to some small business people. I've been talking on Twitter to some small business people who say they've talked to their bankers who are telling them, we'll have this figured out by next week. Treasury is going to write some new regulations that are going to allow us to do this. We'll have an application form and everything else as soon as next week. That's maybe optimistic, but that's what they're saying. It's going to be an enormous surge, though, and it's going to really stretch all of these banks because there's going to just be a flood of people applying for this.
There's also going to have to be, Becky, there's going to have to be some guidance, I think, from the regulators as well. So I think next week is optimistic. I think the banks are going to have to maybe gear up for this. What are the numbers? Something like 5.5 million small businesses in America, and each one of these will in some way could be eligible for a loan. Not all of them obviously will apply, but and then you have this other pot of money, this $450 billion of money that goes over to the Fed and creates the possibility of something like $4 trillion of additional lending that looks like it's aimed more at the medium-sized businesses, 500 to 10,000. The Fed has to set that whole thing, get that standing up over the next several weeks. And what we heard yesterday from Bernanke and from Bullard was that they're going to have to use the commercial banks for that as well. So these banks are going to be a front line in terms of the assistance going out to the American public.